Hi everybody, it's Dave from Wing Chun Mind Force. Didn't post anything last week, sorry. I've had an extremely busy time, lots of good things happening, especially with my new channel, The Portal. I've written a book. I've written 3 chapters of the book, but I know what the rest of the book's about, and I've been putting together a really professional proposal to publishers to get the book published by a big publisher, because I want the story of The Portal to get out there. And I have indicated, I think, to you that there's a fair bit of Kung Fu going to be in there, but it's essentially about the Nim Dao. It's about the connection to the subconscious and to what I consider the other side, to the dimension of the afterlife, to all sorts of mysterious things in this world. And our Sigung even hinted at that, at least in stories I've been told by people who knew him. Anyway, it's all about my experiences, and look forward to that. I apologize, I've been caught up in doing that and getting the YouTube channel done, and I've been interviewing a number of very interesting and influential people, mostly from overseas, but one friend of mine from Australia's got a huge YouTube channel. He's got like 800,000 subscribers. His name's Paul Anthony Wallace, and he's a Church of England minister of 33 years experience, who through doing his Bible translation work got into the whole paleo contact ancient astronaut thing through what he found in there. But he's into more than just that. He's actually really a very nice man, very intelligent, interesting guy, and we talk about spiritual things. And I don't agree with everything he says, same as I don't agree with just about anybody. I don't even agree with myself sometimes, but mostly we agree, and I find his work very interesting. And I'm actually mentioned in his latest book, which is called Echoes of Eden. There's a bit of an out there story that I tell. I won't tell you here about it, but you'll see my name in the acknowledgements, thanks to David Lovegrove, mentioned with some fairly high profile people, and my story's in there. But this is not really just an ad for The Portal, but check out my channel, The Portal. I'll put a link in the description below. I'm still very devoted to this channel. Don't think I'm forgetting. I have slowed down a little bit, but I just wanted to sort of finish off what I've been talking about with kicking, in that, I posted that last video about balancing and different balancing tricks, and just for those who really can't comprehend why I think balancing is something to do with Wing Chun and kicking particularly, just think of kicking, it's standing on one leg and balancing basically, and exerting force from that place. So you've got to have perfect balance to kick well, otherwise you're going to get knocked. And it's really just the same as standing two-legged. You really want to, in Wing Chun, you want to be effortlessly standing and not moved by the other guy. And the only way to make that happen is to engage Nim Dao, because unless you can do that, it's always you consciously trying to balance, trying to stand up, trying to resist force or take it in or do some kind of thing. But when you can completely empty and find that Nim Dao mind state, then your body and your mind looks after it. It releases this power, which is called Nimlik, which is just the natural power of your subconscious mind. And it's something that our Sigung Chu and undoubtedly masters before him took to an extremely high level. And the thing about kicking is that it's the longest weapon, and it's usually the first way you can contact somebody attacking you. So if somebody's charging at you, you want to kick them first. Try to kick their legs out. You want to stop them. You don't really want to have to thump them. It's better if you can just trip them or knock them down, and you can severely injure somebody with a good kick. And if you're going to fight a lot of people, you want to be kicking and punching and doing whatever you can do, because you want to win. It's not a match where the ref's going to jump in. Anyway, I just want you to think about that balancing state whenever you're kicking, and try this idea. I can't demonstrate it today because I'm in my bus, but way back in the 70s when I was a Taekwondo kickboxer, we didn't even call it that. We used to just call it well, non-classical Kung Fu, but we had a lot of sparring matches would happen in Brisbane and around the world. There was, all those guys, Benny the Jet, and I'd have to think to remember all the names, but there was a scene going on, and I don't think it was called kickboxing until the 80s, and certainly it's become UFC and MMA, and I'm not really, I should be embarrassed, I suppose. I don't really know what the difference is. I think it's a brand. They both seem to use, groundwork and kicking and punching. Anyway, when you're just stand and relax and try kicking in all 4 directions. So kick forward, kick back, kick to the side, kick to the other side, but just on one leg. So when you do a right side kick, don't use the left foot to go left, pivot yourself around and kick to the right, and just do a lot of that. Now this brings me to an unusual subject, because not all Wing Chun uses these things, and there is a confusion even in my head about what they're called. But you've all heard of plum blossom poles, and mostly they seem to be represented as poles in the ground that you stand on top of, and there's all sorts of far out balance practices that happen, and I think that's certainly would be a good idea. Just be careful not to hurt yourself. I think people start fairly low. But there's another one used in Wing Chun. Some of Yip Man's students use them, where you have 4 poles, sort of like I said, one in front of you, one behind, one to one side, one to the other, and you kick those posts. And I think it's a fantastic idea. It's sort of, I think the idea is you can reach them. I remember seeing a setup where a guy had these posts on a board and he could sort of cart it round. But the idea is that firstly, just really work on your balance, then work on your accuracy, so you can, every time you kick, you touch what you want to kick, which is something you really need to do. You can't just expect you're going to be able to hit accurately unless you're doing it regularly. And I wouldn't use too much force. I would just work on your accuracy and your balance, because force in Wing Chun is different to just grunting and making it happen. It's best to work gently, the same as we do in all the other forms. The other thing is, I have talked about this in past videos, but when you kick in Wing Chun, we generally think of them as a stamp, in that we generally stamp down, and you think through your knee, down through your shin, into your heel, mostly. So that's a really strong practical kick. Having said that, I have talked to senior people. I'm not going to reveal their names because they're all very shy. I don't want to misquote them, but they've said to me, and I believe this, once you're in the right mind state and you really know your Wing Chun, you could fight like Bruce Lee and Enter the Dragon, kick people in the side of the head, and kick people at the end of your toes, kick them with the side of your foot, back of your heel, kick them in the ear, the hook going bang. Really, that Nim Tao mind state makes everything powerful. Doesn't matter what you do, and it doesn't seem to be really hampered by gravity that much, or the direction. And I also know this is a heresy, but I was taught to always fight very flat-footed and soft-footed, and that's how you should do the forms, absolutely. But once you're on, I can't see why you can't get up on the balls of your feet and dance like Bruce Lee or Muhammad Ali or whoever you want to think of, but using the Wing Chun mind and those principles that we build into our body. I think that's why Wing Chun's got a bad name out there in La La Land, because these deluded people who don't really know Wing Chun, or they hardly know the first principles, dress up in a silk Chinese kung fu suit and go and match some bloody muscly bruiser and get their asses handed to them. And it's like, well, what did you think was going to happen? Number one, they're usually like, there's a great weight distance. It's like it doesn't matter in these fights, the weight of the fighter. I don't understand that. And also you can just see these guys are usually older guys, like younger than me, but still getting on a bit, and obviously not athletic guys, and they don't, I don't know, they just have this amazing faith in their sifu, whoever taught them, but they just stand there like wooden dummies. And as much as I talk about being a wooden dummy and getting that mindset, which in a fight you want to be alive. You don't want to be stand there flat-footed waiting to get thumped. You want to be a wild animal. You want to be on and moving and dodging, and there's nothing wrong with dodging a punch. Don't think, oh, it's not Wing Chun unless I just stand there rock still and stick to the punch and then turn it aside. Well, that's great, but get out of the bloody way as well. I mean, you do it all at the same time. Just Wing Chun's really a theory that you apply to whatever you have to apply it to. So it should always be, my Sifu had this mnemonic we used to use. It was, I thought of it as MEDSP, and medical support. You need, after you fight a Wing Chun guy, you'll need medical support because we're so tragically powerful. But I used to think M, minimum use of brute strength, E, efficiency, D, directness, S, simplicity, and P, practicality. So that's sort of the mantra he taught us, and I think it's very valid. It's just no flowery moves, no long distance moves unless you have to. Just get it done, get it on, go straight in, don't fuck around. It's a bad word. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. Other people do. I think that's the first time I've said that on the video. Anyway, the classic example, I had this mate who's a really hardcore mantis style guy, and I wouldn't want to fight him. Years ago he says to me, what would you do if I did this? And he had these two mantis claws that were sort of going to come at me from both sides, and I just did like a 1-inch punch to his chest. I didn't really do it, I just touched him and just went straight in, and he stood there with his mantis claws up going, that was unexpected. Because that's the thing, that's Wing Chun's not about taking the long way, it's always about taking the shortest, fastest, most powerful route, getting the job done. It's a down and dirty practical art, and that's why we spend a lot of time sort of thinking about the more spiritual, philosophical side of it, because it sort of comes down to that. As I've said many times to you guys, I really believe this is an art to release your subconscious, to release the animal within, the wild animal, to release your superpower that you're born with as a baby, that the animals have. And I believe they're all telepathic. I think babies are telepathic, animals are telepathic. That's what the portal's about. I'm essentially talking about stuff that's supposedly forbidden and impossible, and if you go on Wikipedia or look at a TED talk, they'll tell you, the serious scientists know that this stuff's all a fraud, and Wikipedia will tell you there's never ever been any proven cases of, I hate the word paranormal because it sort of sounds like ghosts and stuff. not particularly into that. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but I'm more about real human powers, you know. I don't even like the word psychic because it sounds a little bit like reading cards or something. Once again, there's nothing really wrong with that, but the most important thing is I'm saying these things are real, and I actually interview Colonel John B. Alexander, who was one of the chief guys in the US Army and worked with the CIA doing remote viewing and developing all sorts of far out powers in response to the Russians. This is in the early 70s. Oh no, mid 70s, 1980s or so. The Russians were spending millions of rubles on this stuff, and they wouldn't waste money. They weren't into religion at all. So they knew something was going on. The Americans knew that something was going on, and it's, as far as I'm concerned, it's totally proven these things are real, but for some reason we're still being told by scientists and experts that this has all been debunked, and, you know, James Randi had a prize and no one stepped up, and all this sort of stuff. Well, that's all very well, you know. I haven't stepped up. I have some abilities that are unusual that I've experienced, but I can't just make them happen. You know, I can't just go. I can tell you some stories that are, I can, you know, cross my heart, hope to die. These are fair dinkum stories, but I can't just do it on command. And I assume that there's people who can, and they're probably not going to go and cheapen it by getting a prize or something like that. I don't know, really. Anyway, take it or leave it, but the Wing Chun is a real superpower, and that's what keeps me interested. It's so bloody interesting, and it's really sort of a endless, interesting quest. So I'll leave it at that. That was quite a bus rave, but I haven't done one for a while. So wishing you all the best for your Wing Chun. I think about you guys, hope you're all well. Quite a few people I haven't heard from for a while. You've probably found better channels. So get back. I want you back. All right, see you later.